It's kind of unsettling. Because look, we usually think of career destruction as this massive, loud event, right? Like a dramatic firing, a huge public scandal, or some massive HR policy violation. But what if the most devastating career killers aren't loud at all? What if they're entirely silent, completely structural, and perfectly legal? In this explainer, we're doing a deep dive into how workplace systems can systematically destroy careers and just completely erode an employee's confidence without ever crossing a single legal line.
You didn't have to break the law to break people. Let that sink in for a second. It's a chilling thought, right? But it really sets up the core theme of our analysis today. This stark, cold reality of legal frameworks versus the devastating human impact of corporate systems. We're going to explore some highly documented patterns, specifically using Microsoft as our primary case study, to really understand how a perfectly legal workplace culture can still leave deep, lasting scars.
Section 1. The legal gray zone. Okay, I want you to imagine stepping into a high-performing tech team. You are absolutely at the top of your game. Your metrics are rock solid, and you're ready to innovate. But pretty quickly, you realize the biggest threat to your success isn't the competitor across the street. No, it's the system itself. It's something we call career invisibility punishment. Now, this isn't traditional retaliation. You're not getting a pay cut, and HR isn't calling you into some bleak conference room to hand you a cardboard box. Instead, high-impact work just stops. You're suddenly excluded from key meetings. Your performance feedback becomes incredibly vague, and your career momentum just quietly, slowly disappears. It's reputation cooling. And the craziest part? It is functionally invisible in HR systems.
To really understand how this happens, we need a quick timeline. So from 2000 to 2014, under Steve Ballmer, Microsoft utilized a management system known as stack ranking. This was an era where these structural systems were at their absolute peak. Then, from 2014 to the present, under Satya Nadella, the public messaging shifted, right? It moved toward empathy, a growth mindset, and collaboration. Stack ranking was officially removed. But as reports show, you can't just erase a decade of deep-rooted behavioral conditioning overnight. That cultural aftermath definitely lingered in high-pressure divisions.
Section 2. Stack ranking and sabotage. Let's look a bit closer at that Ballmer era, because this is where the foundation of the gray zone was really built. Stack ranking wasn't just some standard review process. It was an intensely anxious, highly competitive arena where you were literally working for your political survival. And it all came down to this number, 3. Managers were mathematically forced to sort their employees into 3 distinct buckets. A limited percentage were allowed to be top performers, a chunk were average, and a mandatory percentage had to be labeled as low performers. So think about this. Even if you had a stellar team where every single person was performing brilliantly, the system mathematically required managers to label someone as a failure.
And the result? Well, according to reporting by Vanity Fair, one engineer noted, it leads to employees focusing on competing with each other rather than competing with other companies. The system entirely normalized internal team sabotage. If helping your teammate meant they might jump into the top bucket and push you down into the mandatory low bucket, you stopped helping them. You withheld information. Managers would even pre-select their losers early in the cycle just to satisfy the math. It's a brutal dynamic.
So let's break down exactly how this structural sabotage works mechanically, because it triggers a devastating downward spiral. Step 1. This system forces winners and losers. Step 2. Those low-ranked employees are permanently marked internally. Step 3. That mark leads to a massive withdrawal of opportunity. You get fewer key projects, way less leadership advocacy, until finally, Step 4, total career invisibility sets in. Do you see how this mechanically traps an employee? The system itself creates the conditions for failure, and then it turns around and punishes the employee for it.
Section 3. The career invisibility trap. Once you are caught in this cycle, all that fast-paced competitive energy completely drains away. The reality of being in this trap is just heavy. It's stagnant. As one anonymous employee told Business Insider, "You're not fired, you're just done." That is just a chilling reality. I mean, imagine waking up every day, logging on, putting in your hours, knowing full well that your promotions have stalled and your projects have vanished, and you haven't received a single formal warning or write-up.
And the data actually backs up this feeling of just shouting into the void. Look at this. A 2022 public disclosure regarding internal harassment and misconduct claims revealed a pretty stark reality. Out of hundreds of complaints, only a very, very small number resulted in formal terminations. For the vast majority of those who raised concerns, the outcome was completely opaque, or it resulted in no visible action at all. It creates a terrifying workplace dynamic where speaking up becomes a massive risk. And silence? Silence becomes your only survival strategy.
Which brings us to a vital, impartial legal reality. Between 2015 and 2019, there was a massive class action lawsuit, Women versus Microsoft, which alleged pay inequality, promotion bias, and systemic disadvantage. But in 2019, the case was dismissed. The courts found there wasn't enough commonality across the employees to certify a class action. And that is the ultimate gray zone truth. It's harm that is very real, but just not legally actionable at scale.
Section 4. Working without clear feedback.
So, put yourself in the shoes of an employee living through this for a second. How do you work without clear feedback? You're trying your hardest to maintain your professional confidence, but the ground beneath you is constantly shifting. And you start asking yourself this exact question: am I actually underperforming? I want you to really think about the weight of that. You're a high achiever. You have always been good at your job, but suddenly you're sidelined. The cognitive dissonance is absolutely deafening. You start desperately searching for mistakes that aren't even there.
Because your performance metrics are absolutely fine. The actual data says you are succeeding, but the feedback you receive in your one-on-ones, it's completely stagnant. It's incredibly vague. There's no clear cause, no documented issue for you to fix, and absolutely nothing to fight or appeal. You are just suspended in this professional limbo.
Section 5. The invisible psychological toll.
This gray zone behavior inflicts devastating emotional burnout. It's not just a bad day at the office. It starts with chronic self-doubt and identity erosion, as high performers fundamentally question their core confidence. Then comes severe isolation, because when your teammates become competitors, trust completely evaporates. Mixed with constant evaluation pressure and this lingering fear of invisible punishment, it breeds learned helplessness. Over time, employees simply stop advocating for themselves. They stop taking risks. The fire just goes out, and they quietly disengage. It is a slow, silent erosion of a person.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is distinguishing between what is strictly illegal and what is deeply harmful. Illegal behavior requires explicit retaliation or discrimination against a protected class. But the harmful behaviors we've discussed, stack ranking, internal sabotage, silent career retaliation, they sit comfortably outside the bounds of the law. Performance systems, legal. Managers controlling work assignments, legal. But the human toll, that is undeniable.
Which leads us to the core takeaway of this entire explainer. The system didn't need to fire you to end your career. It just had to make you disappear. It is the absolute ultimate cruelty of reputation cooling. It allows a massive organization to quietly neutralize an employee without ever triggering a wrongful termination suit or even raising an HR red flag.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder today. If a workplace doesn't break the law, but it breaks its people, how safe are you really? It really forces us to look past the official employee handbook and examine the actual lived culture of our workplaces. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep examining the systems around you, and I will see you next time.